All right, picture this like a slow-burn Netflix drama. It's 2018. The shop's falling apart, Dad's worn down to the bone, and the only service van we own breaks down more than the machines we fix. That's where I stepped in, not out of some grand plan, but because someone had to. I dropped the wheel-fix-anything chaos and carved out a lane of our own. Heavy duty, industrial only, the kind of clients who don't flinch at a big invoice because downtime costs them even more. Construction fleets, mining rigs, municipal contracts. Real work, real money. Then came the wild idea, 24/7 emergency service. Everyone thought I'd lost my mind. But I knew, construction doesn't stop at 5 o'clock, and neither should we. So we stayed open when everyone else shut their doors. Nights, weekends, holidays, triple rates if you needed us on Christmas Eve. Before long, every site foreman in 3 counties had my number on speed dial. Call Rodriguez, they'll show up. Within a year and a half, we weren't the scrappy little shop anymore. 1 van turned into 8. 3 lazy part-timers became 20 sharp, reliable mechanics who took pride in the name on their shirts. I brought in GPS tracking, digital work orders, inventory systems that didn't feel like a guessing game. Dad still loved getting his hands dirty, couldn't pry the wrench out of his grip if I tried. But everything else, operations, clients, sales, the crew, that was on me. The older guys didn't make it easy. To them, I was just some kid telling veterans how to do their jobs. But that changed fast. I worked beside them, bled beside them, proved I could take the same hits they did. By the 4th year, we had 40 employees, 12 trucks, and over $4 million in revenue. By the 6th, we'd doubled again, 53 employees, 18 vehicles, $8 million a year. Dad and I each drew a $160,000 salary, more than either of us had ever seen. But the real reward was watching that empire rise from dust. Every late night, every busted knuckle, every gamble, it was paying off. We had a 94% client retention rate, and a crew that felt more like family than staff. And then there was Drew, my brother, the golden boy. While I was buried in oil and invoices, he was downtown in tailored suits, sipping coffee in glass towers. He'd show up twice a year, usually around the holidays, with that polished grin and a few not-so-subtle jabs about how I should have finished school. The condo, the car, the confidence, he had it all. And somehow, despite everything I'd built, he was still the favorite. That's the thing about family. Sometimes the hardest part isn't the work. It's who you're doing it for. Professional ambition, right? That's what they called it. As if turning a struggling $300,000 operation into an $8 million powerhouse wasn't ambitious enough, not when my brother's biggest skill was formatting spreadsheets. But that's how it always was. Drew wore a tie. I wore grease stains, and somehow his ambition always seemed to shine brighter. The only person who really got me was Jen, my girlfriend, now fiancée. She'd laugh when I came home at midnight smelling like hydraulic fluid, toss my clothes straight in the washer, and kiss me goodnight like I'd just come back from war. Her dad ran a plumbing company, so she understood that kind of grind, the kind that leaves your hands cracked and your heart full. She respected it. My parents, not so much. Mom called her unrefined. Translation: Jen didn't come from money, didn't fake a smile at the right times, and didn't pretend to be impressed by my dad's stories about the Rodriguez legacy. Family dinners were brutal. Mom asking Jen about her career trajectory, wondering aloud if she'd still work after marriage, Dad ignoring her completely. What they really wanted was for Drew to give them grandchildren. Mom would drop hints every chance she got, showing Drew photos of his friends' kids, talking about how nice it'd be to hear little feet running around before they got too old. Then came Dad's 67th birthday dinner, the night everything changed. We're all there at his favorite steakhouse. Me, Jen, Mom, Dad, and Drew. Dad's on his 3rd drink when he starts talking numbers. Mentions the shop's pulling nearly $8 million now. Then he mentions his health, the asbestos, the arthritis, the years catching up to him. That's when Drew perks up like a bloodhound catching a scent. $8 million, he says, eyes lighting up. Gross revenue. I clarify. Margins aren't huge after costs. But it's too late. I can already see the gears turning in his head. Dad clears his throat, that announcement voice creeping in. I've been thinking about succession, he says, about legacy, about family. Here it comes. He turns to Drew. You've done well in finance. Son, build a great career. But I was hoping maybe you consider coming home, working with your brother, building this business together. Drew laughs, that smooth, practice kind of laugh that sounds expensive. Dad, I make $180,000 managing portfolios. I'm not exactly looking to get my hands dirty. Dad leans forward. You wouldn't have to. That's what your brother does. I'm talking about bringing real business strategy into the operation, proper financial management, growth planning. And just like that, I can see the story writing itself. Drew's story. The prodigal son returns, the genius strategist swooping in to fix what I'd already built. Drew nods, warming up to the idea. We could professionalize the whole thing, he says. Bring in systems, processes, scalability. With my background, the business is scaled just fine. I cut in from $300,000 to $8 million in 7 years. That's impressive, he says, smiling that smug, condescending smile. But there's a difference between working hard and working smart. Mom joins the tag team. Drew has an education, sweetheart. He understands corporate strategy in ways you just couldn't, because I dropped out. Of course. The air goes thick. Jen squeezes my hand under the table, grounding me. Dad looks excited. Mom's glowing with pride. And Drew, he's wearing that look like he just found a $20 bill in an old coat pocket. I think having both my sons working together could be something special. Dad says, a real family business. I should have seen it coming. Should have known that someday this will all be yours had an expiration date. But I believed him. I'd done it. Built it. Bled for it. Turns out, blood matters more than sweat. And Drew's blood, apparently, came with a business degree, premium vintage. The call started the next morning. Dad wanted to explore the opportunity. Drew sent me articles about family business succession planning. Mom kept saying how proud Dad would be to see both his boys finally working together. Nobody asked what I wanted. Nobody mentioned the 7 years I'd spent building an empire while Drew collected paychecks in an air-conditioned office. 2 weeks later, Dad called a formal meeting. Lawyers, conference room, mahogany desk, the whole production. I walked in expecting to talk buyouts or partnership terms. What I got instead was an execution, clean, corporate, and disguised as family. Dad started soft, talking legacy, unity, dreams of his sons carrying the torch. Drew sat there in his Brooks Brothers suit, smiling like he already owned the place. Then the lawyer slid the paperwork across the desk. Here's a proposal. Dad said, ownership transitions over the next 12 months. And just like that, everything I built, every night, every bolt, every damn hour, was suddenly up for negotiation. So here's how the knife twisted. The final split. 45% to Drew, 45% to me, and 10% left for Dad. Advisory shares, he called them, like a crown he didn't want to take off yet. Drew would step in as CEO with a $210,000 salary. I'd be the COO, which sounds fancy until you realize it's corporate code for the guy who does all the real work while someone else takes the credit. The structure provides optimal management efficiency, the attorney droned, in that polished, soulless tone lawyers are apparently trained to use. Drew's financial expertise combined with your operational knowledge creates complementary leadership. Complementary, like I was a supporting act in my own damn story. Dad chimed in, eager, proud. Drew will handle strategic planning, financial management, business development. Then he turned to me. You will manage day-to-day operations, oversee the crews, the technical side. So, what I've already been doing, I said. And Drew does what exactly? Executive leadership. Drew said smoothly, like he'd been practicing in front of a mirror. Setting direction, building frameworks, managing growth strategy, things that require MBA-level thinking. MBA-level thinking. For a business he'd never worked in, serving clients he'd never met, fixing machines he couldn't even name. I've already drafted a 5-year growth plan, he added proudly, pulling out a binder like he was unveiling scripture. Standardization of service protocols, expansion into 3 new markets, implementation of Six Sigma quality management. Six Sigma. I laughed. We fix excavators. Drew. We're not building microchips. He gave me that smile, the condescending one that says you'll understand when you're older. That attitude, he said, is exactly why we need professional management. Dad nodded along, and Mom, who'd been quiet until now, finally struck. Your father built something great, sweetheart, and you've done solid work maintaining it, she said sweetly. But you had every advantage. His reputation, his client base, his facilities. Drew's had to build his success from scratch. From scratch. Like I hadn't spent years rebuilding this place from the ground up, dragging it out of debt, living off coffee and diesel fumes while she bragged about her other son's stock portfolio. What happens if I say no? I asked finally. The room went still. Dad's face tightened. Drew frowned. The attorney didn't even blink. He'd seen this play before. Then I sell to a third party, Dad said quietly. I'm 67. My lungs are shot. The arthritis is getting worse. I need to transition the business before I can't anymore. Either it stays in the family, or it doesn't. Mom added softly, family means both sons, not just one. There it was, the guilt bomb, gift-wrapped in sentiment. Either accept my brother as my boss, or watch the company I built sold off to strangers. Why does Drew get the same salary as me? I asked, when I've been here 7 years and he's been here 7 minutes. The attorney didn't even look up. Executive positions command commensurate compensation. CEO and COO roles traditionally align in similar-sized organizations. And Drew, without missing a beat, leaned back and said, besides, I'm taking a pay cut. Leaving $180,000 to come make $210,000 is barely an upgrade when you factor in career risk. Career risk. Running a company that was already thriving, a company I built. I wanted to flip the table, scream, career risk my ass. Instead, I nodded, smiled, asked a few polite questions, and told him I needed time to think. Don't take too long, Dad said. I'd like this resolved before the holidays. When I left, I called Jen. How bad? She asked. Nuclear, I said. The next morning, I called Dad. I've thought about it, I told him. Let's move forward with the plan. He sounded relieved. That's wonderful. Son, Drew's already putting together onboarding materials. He's very thorough. I'm sure he is. Oh, and one more thing, Dad added. Drew mentioned it might be good if you dress a little more professionally when he starts. Business casual at minimum. First impressions matter. Business casual. In a diesel repair shop, where I spend half my time crawling under 40-ton loaders. Sure, Dad, whatever Drew thinks is best. I hung up and started planning my exit, because if I was going down, I wasn't leaving quietly. Then came Drew's first day, the grand debut. He showed up like a LinkedIn post come to life. Slate gray slacks, press button down, leather shoes that cost more than my truck payment, to a shop that smelled like grease, metal, and sweat. Dad gave him the royal tour, introducing him to everyone like he was crowning the new king. This is my son, Drew. He'll be helping us take the company to the next level. Most of the guys just nodded politely and went back to work. But I saw the looks, the side glances, the smirks. Big Tommy, my foreman since year 2, caught my eye and gave me a subtle "what the hell is this?" gesture. I didn't have an answer. Not yet. But trust me, it was coming. Drew's grand debut lasted all of 30 minutes before he retreated to the office we'd cleared out for him, his new command center. Within the hour, he'd rearranged the furniture, opened his laptop, and was already on a call with some consultant about operational optimization. Meanwhile, I was elbow deep in a transmission rebuild for one of our mining clients, covered in grease and sweat, same as always. Around 3 in the afternoon, Drew finally emerged, stepping carefully between oil stains like they were landmines. Hey, he called out over the hiss of pneumatic tools, can we talk about the crew's scheduling inefficiencies? I wiped my hands on a rag. What inefficiencies? I've been reviewing the logs, he said, all MBA confidence. There's significant variance in job completion times. Some tasks that should take 2 hours are taking 4. That's unacceptable. I stared at him. Those are estimates, Drew. Real-world repairs don't follow your spreadsheet. With proper training and standardization, these guys are trained. I cut in. They've been doing this for decades. They're not the problem. He frowned. Trying to calculate a response like this was a case study. Then what is? Nothing. We complete 96% of jobs on or under time. That's industry-leading. According to whose metrics? According to experience in this industry. Silence. A few of the guys pretended not to listen, but every ear was tuned in. Drew lowered his voice. Look, I get that this is an adjustment, but Dad brought me in for a reason. I have skills you don't. If we're going to work together, you mean if I'm going to work under you? I mean if we're going to build something bigger than either of us could alone. Corporate buzzword bingo. 3 cliches in one breath. I almost applauded. That evening, Dad called me into his office. Mom was there too, which meant trouble. Drew mentioned you were resistant today. Dad started. I answered his questions. With an attitude, Mom added, "He's trying to help. The least you could do is show some respect." Respect? For a guy who'd never spent a single day in this industry, who couldn't diagnose a blown head gasket if it exploded in front of him, who was being handed half of what I'd built from nothing. I forced a calm tone. I'm trying to adjust. It's a big change. Mom exchanged a look with Dad. Speaking of change, now that Drew's moving back, we're hoping he'll settle down. Start a family. Here we go. That's great, I said carefully. We just think it's time for grandchildren, before we're too old to enjoy them, she said. Drew's at a good place in life for that. Stable, mature, ready to be a father. The implication hung in the air, like exhaust fumes in a closed garage. Drew was a suitable son, the one who'd give them acceptable grandkids. I was just a mechanic with the wrong kind of life and the wrong kind of fiancé. Jen and I are engaged, I said quietly. We're thinking of setting a date. Mom's smile flickered. Well, that's your choice. We just think Drew's path might be more aligned with what this family needs right now. This family needs grandkids through the right son. Got it. Don't be dramatic, Dad sighed. Your mother's just saying Drew didn't waste his life in a shop. I understand perfectly. I left before I said something I'd regret, or worse, something I wouldn't regret. The next 3 weeks were a masterclass in corporate colonization. Drew brought in morning stand-up meetings where mechanics had to list their daily goals. He installed a process improvement system that nobody used. Hired a consultant for $15,000 to tell us how to do our jobs. The crew hated it. By week 2, Tommy, my lead foreman, pulled me aside. Boss, he said, and it didn't escape me that he still called me boss, not Drew. What the heck is happening? Half the guys are looking for other jobs. This corporate nonsense doesn't work here. I know, I said. Then do something. I'm working on it. And I was, just not in the way they thought. I was building my exit, one that would leave a mark they wouldn't forget. I started small. Client check-ins. Friendly conversations with the accounts I had built over 7 years. Dropped a few hints that I might be making some moves soon. 8 out of 10 said they'd follow me without hesitation. Then came the crew. Quiet talks, one by one. The best mechanics, the ones who could diagnose an excavator's hydraulics blindfolded. 12 of them said yes. They'd jump ship if I started something new. Found a warehouse 3 miles away. Smaller, but enough. Used every bit of my savings and a $150,000 loan from Jen's dad, a man who understood loyalty better than my own family, to lease the space and buy the essentials. The plan was simple. The execution? Devastating. The whole time, I played my part perfectly. The quiet, agreeable brother. I smiled through Drew's ridiculous ideas, nodded in meetings that meant nothing. Even wore those business casual outfits Dad insisted on. It was all part of the show. For 3 weeks, I stayed in character, obedient, polite, invisible, while behind the scenes, every piece of my plan fell into place. Client secured, crew committed, space leased, equipment purchased. all lined up like dominoes, waiting for that first satisfying push. I picked a Monday morning for the grand reveal. Maximum chaos potential. Drew had one of his big strategic planning sessions scheduled for 9 a.m., the kind where he'd ramble about synergies to a room full of mechanics who barely resisted the urge to roll their eyes. I showed up early, just after 7. The shop smelled like diesel and coffee, the scent of the real work that kept the place alive. Dad was in Bay 3, wrench in hand, same as always. "Morning," I said. "Morning, son. Coffee's fresh. Actually, I need to talk to you about something." We walked to his office. I had a folder under my arm, neat, professional, final. Inside were my resignation letter, the lease of my new shop, registration papers, and a list of clients who were coming with me. I laid it all out on the desk like evidence in a trial. "I'm leaving," I said simply, "starting my own operation. Most of your major clients are coming with me, along with 12 of our best mechanics. Here's my formal notice." Dad just stared at the papers like he couldn't make sense of them. "You're what?" "Leaving. I'm not spending the next 30 years playing second fiddle to someone who couldn't tell a hydraulic pump from a garden hose. These clients," Dad's voice cracked, "Morrison Construction, Bridgeport Patterson Mining, those are our biggest accounts." "They're my clients," I said. "I built those relationships. They trust me, not the logo on the invoice. This is theft." "It's competition," I said calmly. "You wanted Drew to bring professional business practices. Well, here's one, non-competes. You never had me sign one. Neither did the crew. Legally, ethically, I'm in the clear." Dad's face turned red. "After everything I did for you, you gave me a job," I said. "I turned it into an empire. There's a difference. I was going to give you half, 4 to 5%. I corrected. Same as a guy who's been here 5 minutes. And you were going to make him my boss. That's not a gift, Dad. That's an insult." The door swung open. Drew walked in, all confidence until he saw the document spread across the desk. His expression shifted from curious to furious in seconds. "What's this?" he demanded. "Your brother's betraying us," Dad said. "I'm competing with you," I corrected again. "There's a difference." Drew snatched the client list. "You can't just steal our accounts." "Watch me," I said. "I built those connections while you were busy building PowerPoints. They are following me because they value competence, not titles." "This is sabotage," he snapped. "We'll sue you." "For what?" "Running a business in an industry I actually know. You'd lose. No non-compete, no NDA, no trade secrets." Dad didn't believe in all that corporate nonsense. Remember? Drew turned to Dad, horrified. "You didn't make him sign anything." "I trusted him." Dad muttered. "Well, trust doesn't mean much when it's stealing your company." Drew shot back. "I'm not stealing," I said. "I'm taking back what I built." By then, the crew had started arriving. Tommy poked his head in, took one look at the scene, and gave me a tiny nod. "Time." I walked out into the shop floor, my heart pounding but steady. "Morning, everyone," I said, raising my voice. "Quick announcement. I'm leaving to start my own operation. For those of you who've already agreed to join me, we start at the new facility Wednesday morning. For everyone else, no hard feelings. You're good men. I respect whatever choice you make." Silence. Then Tommy broke it. "What's the address, boss?" I told him. 11 other phones came out, thumbs typing fast. Drew stormed out of the office, shouting, "You can't do this. You're destroying the business." And then Mom appeared, face cold, voice sharp. "You ungrateful little..." "Careful," I said quietly. "Wouldn't want to say something you can't take back." "After everything we gave you," she hissed. "Everything we sacrificed. This is about that girl, isn't it? She's been in your ear, telling you deserve more." "Jen's the only one who ever supported me," I said. "She's not family," Mom snapped, "and she never will be. We wanted Drew to give us grandchildren because at least his kids would be raised right." And there it was, the truth finally spoken out loud. I wasn't just leaving a business. I was walking away from a family that never really saw me at all. Well, enjoy Drew's hypothetical grandkids, I said, turning toward the door. I'll enjoy my actual business. And just like that, I walked out. Tommy and the others followed without a word. We loaded our tools into the trucks, the same ones we'd used to build that shop from the ground up, and drove away. I checked the rearview mirror once, just once. Drew stood there in the parking lot, chute already smudged with grease, staring like a man who just realized his executive title came with a side of real wealth. Dad stood in the doorway, shoulders slumped, looking 10 years older than he had that morning. Mom was on her phone, no doubt calling every relative within range to report my betrayal. Me? I just felt light. The kind of light that comes when the weight finally falls off, the weight of obligation, of approval, of being a grateful son who should have known his place. That chapter was closed. Time to write my own. By Wednesday, Rodriguez Heavy Equipment Repair opened its doors. 4 service bays, 12 mechanics, just enough equipment to get started, and absolutely zero corporate nonsense. 6 a.m., the lights came on. By noon, we'd knocked out 4 jobs. By the end of the first week, we were booked 3 weeks solid. Morrison Construction moved their entire fleet contract over by day 3, $1, $8 million annually. Bridgeport followed right after. Patterson Mining called me personally to confirm they were switching to. Turns out, when you build relationships the right way, clients don't follow a company. They follow the person who never let them down. The crew was fired up, working harder than ever, but smiling. I paid them 18% more than before, gave them flexible schedules, and treated them like professionals they were, not resources in some spreadsheet. 3 weeks in, I hired 4 more mechanics. 6 weeks in, we'd already leased a space next door, expanding to 6 bays. The $150,000 loan from Jen's dad, the man who believed in me when my own father didn't, was set to be paid off in just over a year. Meanwhile, the old shop was falling apart. Word spread fast. 3 more mechanics gone in the first month. Drew's process improvement meetings weren't exactly inspiring loyalty, and apparently his habit of explaining their own jobs to them wasn't helping either. My phone lit up every day. 53 missed calls from Dad that first week alone. Mom left voicemails that swung from furious to guilt-tripping to full-on sobbing. Drew sent emails with subject lines like legal consequences and theft of proprietary information. His lawyer must have begged him not to. I ignored them all. I was too busy building something that worked. Jen and I set our wedding date. Next summer. Small ceremony. Just friends and her family. My parents weren't invited. After what Mom said about being raised right, that bridge was long gone. 3 months in, the numbers spoke for themselves. $420,000 in monthly revenue. 6 new hires. Brand new diagnostic equipment. A trainee program for younger techs. The shop had become everything I'd ever imagined, built on skill, respect, and pride in honest work. Then, around month 4, I got a voicemail from Drew. His voice didn't sound like the guy in the suit anymore. It was quiet, defeated. We need to talk, please. It's urgent. I deleted it. 2 days later, another message, this time from Dad. His voice cracked halfway through. Son, please call me back. We made mistakes. We need help. For a second, my hand hovered over the phone. Almost. But then I remembered. Everyone's replaceable. That's what Drew said. You had advantages. Dad told me. She'll never be family, Mom whispered. So I didn't call. I got back to work. A few weeks later, my cousin Alex called at 2 a.m. His voice was shaking. Your dad collapsed at the shop. His at Memorial. It's bad. I didn't think. I just moved. Jen grabbed her keys without a word, and 20 minutes later, we were in the ER. The waiting room smelled like antiseptic and fear. Mom was already there. She looked different, smaller, older. When she saw me, her face broke, and for the first time, the tears were real. They think it's a heart attack, she said quietly, complicated by the asbestosis. It's not good. And just like that, the war I'd been fighting for years suddenly felt meaningless. He was in surgery. The words hung in the air like smoke. I asked, "Where's Drew?" Mom's face hardened, Not angry, just tired in a way I'd never seen before. I called him 4 hours ago, she said. He said he'd come, but nothing. So we waited. Hours blurred together under the fluorescent lights until the doctor finally stepped out, face calm but eyes heavy. Mr. Rodriguez is stable, he said, but barely. The heart attack was severe. With his lung condition, recovery is going to be complicated. He'll need long-term care, medication, monitoring, maybe home oxygen. It's going to be expensive. How expensive? Mom asked. Initial hospitalization, about $180,000. Ongoing care, maybe $5,000 to $10,000 a month. Depends on complications. I watched Mom's face go pale. We don't have that kind of money, she whispered. The business is failing. We already sold the house to cover debts. The doctor nodded gently, trying to be kind but firm. We can discuss payment plans, but he'll need another procedure within the week. Cardiac surgery, $90,000 minimum. Without it, his chances drop a lot. I'll cover it, I said. The words came out before I even thought about them. All of it. Mom's head snapped up. What? You heard me. Dad's medical bills. I'll pay them, but there are conditions. Anything, she said, her voice barely a whisper. First, this is for Dad's care only. Not the house. Not the business. Not Drew's problems. Second, I'll set up direct accounts with the hospital and pharmacy. You won't see a dime in cash. She nodded. Maybe for the first time in my life, she didn't argue. Dad made it through surgery. When he woke up, he looked like a ghost of himself. Tubes everywhere, eyes barely open. When he saw me, tears rolled down his face. You came, he whispered. For your health, I said quietly. I'm sorry, he murmured. You were right about everything. 3 days later, Drew finally showed up, strolled into the hospital room like he'd been there all along. How's he doing? He asked. Alive, I said. No thanks to you. I had work commitments, he shot back. I couldn't just drop everything. Right, I said. Dad almost died, and you had work commitments. Got it. Mom's voice cut through the tension, sharp as glass. Your brother's been here every day, paying for everything. You couldn't show up for 3 days? Drew shifted uncomfortably. I'm here now. That's what matters. Actually, I said, it doesn't. If you want to play the concerned son, you contribute. Otherwise, get out. He stammered. I don't have that kind of money right now. Then leave. And for once, Mom didn't defend him. That's when I knew something had changed. Over the next 2 weeks, I paid everything, $208,000 to $7,000 in total. I set up automatic payments for Dad's meds, physical therapy, oxygen, all of it, controlled directly through my accounts. No loopholes, no family drama, just responsibility. Drew called once, accusing me of poisoning Mom against him. I hung up. When he tried showing up at my shop, Tommy and 2 of my guys escorted him off the property. Come back, they told him, and you'll be dealing with the cops. Dad slowly stabilized. I kept my promise, paid for his care, nothing more. No family dinners, no heart-to-hearts, just the bills, on time, every month. Meanwhile, my business exploded. Month 9, $750,000 in revenue, 3 new mining contracts, a municipal deal worth over $2 million a year, 4 to 2 employees, 20 service vehicles, a waiting list of clients, the kind of success they said I'd never reach without them. Jen and I found out she was pregnant and decided not to wait. We got married in her parents' backyard on a crisp October afternoon. 50 people. Real family. Real friends. Her dad gave a toast about integrity, about men who do what they say, who carry their weight and protect what matters. Drew, on the other hand, was unraveling. Word was he'd moved back in with our parents, working at some regional firm for $70,000 a year, delivering pizzas on weekends to stay afloat. The MBA genius who was supposed to modernize the business couldn't even modernize his own life. Some lessons, I guess, come with a heavy price tag. Then, in January, our daughter was born. 7 pounds, healthy, perfect. We named her Elena, after Jen's grandmother. When I held her for the first time, something shifted deep inside me, like every broken thing in my life had finally been replaced with something whole. This was family, not obligation, not guilt, not DNA, just love, choice, and a future worth fighting for. 3 months later, Dad called. I almost didn't answer. "I heard you had a baby," he said. His voice was stronger now. "The treatments are helping. Congratulations." "Thanks," I said quietly. "I don't expect to meet her. I know the boundaries. But I wanted to tell you, you're going to be a better father than I was. You already are." The line went silent. Heavy, but not painful, not anymore. Then he added, almost reluctantly, "Drew asked me for money last week. Said he needed help with bills. I told him no. Told him some people earn help. Others just expect it." I didn't say a word, because he finally got it. "I don't deserve forgiveness," Dad said quietly. "But you were right about everything. And I'm proud of what you built, because it's real." We talked for maybe 10 more minutes. No tears. No dramatic reunion. Just two men finally seeing each other clearly. Not as father and son, but as equals who would both learn the hard way. 2 years later, Rodriguez Heavy Equipment Repair was pulling in over $1. $2 million a month. 53 employees. 23 service vehicles. 14 major contracts. A company worth over $5 million, built from scratch, with grit instead of inheritance. Drew's life, though, kept sliding downhill. Lost another job. Moved back home with Mom and Dad into their cramped little rental. Last I heard, he was delivering pizzas on weekends just to make rent. The man who once promised to professionalize a diesel shop couldn't even professionalize his own life. Some lessons, they cost everything. Elena turned 2 that year, smart, curious, fearless. She loved coming to the shop, watching the mechanics work like it was magic. And Jen, she was pregnant again. A boy this time. We'd already picked the name, Daniel, after her grandfather. Mom still sends birthday cards. No guilt trips. No manipulative calls. Just quiet acknowledgement from a distance, like she finally understands she lost something she can't get back. When I look around, at Elena's drawings taped to my office wall, at the crew laughing over coffee before sunrise, at Jen smiling from the doorway, I know what real legacy means. It's not about handing down a business. It's about teaching your kids their worth isn't negotiable. Their boundaries aren't optional. And family? Family is the people who show up. Every morning, I'm at the shop by 5:30, coffee in hand, lights flicking on one by one. The crew rolls in. Engines start. Another day begins. Another day of building something real, with people who matter. The Rodriguez name still lives on, just not with the ones who thought they owned it.